This was a fun one. This is some intrigue. So, look, here it is. If you're a political junkie, you always like to read the book about the campaign. So this is Shattered. What else I got here? This is if you're a real political nerd, Double Down. This was about the 2012 campaign. So, if you're a politics nerd, you like these books. Well, guess what? The new book, the definitive book of the 2024 election is coming out, and a juicy little excerpt dropped. Joe Rogan's Trump episode was a traumatic event for Kamala Harris. A new book excerpt reveals how VP's proposed interview fell apart. So here's the inside scoop of why Kamala did not end up going on the Joe Rogan show. An excerpt from a new book about the 2024 presidential election shed new light on how former Vice President Kamala Harris's proposed interview with podcast giant Joe Rogan fell apart. Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House from authors Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes, who wrote Shattered, provided a play-by-play of negotiations between the Rogan and Harris camps to secure Harris's appearance on the podcast. The dialogue proved fruitless and cost the ex-vice president's campaign, especially as then-candidate Donald Trump secured a Rogan interview that went viral. Quote, Trump spent 3 hours with Rogan in an interview that instantly went viral. The contrast amounted to a traumatic event, said one Harris aide, that I will never forget, Allen and Parnes wrote. Rogan confirmed in late October, just after publishing his sit-down with Trump, that he had been in negotiations with the Harris team for an interview, noting that talks had come to a standstill because of Harris's demands. At the time, he expressed that he was still open to a future interview and relayed that the Harris camp hadn't canceled either. The section from Fight shed more light on what happened, alleging that initial negotiations between Harris deputy campaign manager Rob Flaherty and Rogan's reps were rocky. According to the book, Rogan sent them his list of interview conditions on October 11th, which included no staff in the studio, no topic restrictions, and Harris would have to sign a waiver. Harris would have to come to Austin, Texas. All right. So, additionally, Harris would have to come to Austin, Texas, according to the Rogan team, though they signaled there was some slight leeway on this condition. The Harris campaign responded, saying that Harris would be happy to talk about social media censorship, weed, and other issues they thought would be of most interest to his listeners. However, Rogan disagreed. As the book said, Joe just wants to talk about the economy, the border, and abortion. Then, the dispute over where Harris would meet Rogan ensued. Okay, this is where it gets unbelievably stupid. Flaherty proposed an interview in Michigan, where the then vice president would be on the campaign trail. No go, the Rogan team said after reaching the host on a weekend hunting trip. Austin or nothing, Parnes and Allen wrote. According to their book, Harris had less than zero reason to be in Texas, as she was in battleground or bust mode. Plus, a detour to Texas might smell like desperation to the press and a waste of money to donors. So their rationale was, we can't justify to our donors that we're taking a trip to Texas just to be interviewed by Rogan.
But
right?
spending $100,000 to recreate the Call Her Daddy set, that's cool with donors.
Yeah, well, this guy,
spending $500,000 to get Oprah, that's okay.
Well, it gets even dumber than that. This is what an unbelievable grift this whole campaign was. It was a giant scam. And this is a combination of just treachery and stupidity. So apparently, Harris campaign chief Jennifer O'Malley Dillon found a solution, telling Rogan's team that Harris would travel to Houston for a rally under the cover of visiting a state with one of the nation's most restrictive abortion laws to put her in proximity to Austin, where she could go on the show. Yes, you read that right. So they thought it was a waste of time and resources to send Kamala herself to the Joe Rogan show in Austin. That would be a waste of time and resources. So you know what we'll do instead? We'll throw an entire rally in a state that we have no chance to win. Yeah. And that'll give us an excuse to our donors who we want to stay on the good side of. Well, while we're here anyway, we'll go on the Joe Rogan show.
The level of stupidity.
How stupid is that?
Amazing. It's amazing.
How stupid can you be?
This is one of these things where you see this and you know these people get paid ridiculous money to make these decisions. And you just say, how?
How?
This is a very
Unbelievable.
competitive industry. How
Right.
can people that stupid get so far?
Harris flew to the state under the auspices of fighting for reproductive rights, though Allen and Parnes wrote, only a few people knew the real reason. The whole Houston rally was built to put her in proximity to Rogan. That was the rally with Beyonce. So you threw this massive rally with this massive star as an excuse to get in proximity to the Joe Rogan podcast, which you said was a waste of time to fly to Texas. Okay, so it's a waste of time to fly to Austin for a few hours.
Plus, they paid Beyonce.
Isn't it a much bigger waste of time and resources to throw this massive star-studded rally just as an excuse? Because here's the thing. They were afraid to tell their rich shit-lib donors that they were taking a detour to talk to Joe Rogan. This is why I say it's not just stupidity. It's also a giant scam, because what they wanted to do was they wanted to tell their donors, hey, we have a great idea. We're going to go to this state with the most restrictive abortion laws, and we're going to bring Beyonce, and it's going to be a big girl boss, girl power rally. And hey, while we're there anyway, we weren't planning on doing this, but while we're there anyway, we may as well go and do the Rogan show. That's what they told their donors, because they knew their donors wouldn't stand for a detour to Texas. So let's blow more money, more time, more effort. Let's send more staff and throw this massive rally that we admit does nothing for our campaign, just to trick our donors into thinking we didn't just go to Texas to be interviewed by Joe Rogan.
Amazing.
What a bunch of fucking low-life used car salesman scam artists they had at that campaign. Just a giant grift, a giant scam. They just did that to trick the donors because their donors' sensibilities wouldn't allow for them to take a special trip for Rogan. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And of course, it falls apart anyway. Didn't even work. So despite Harris making this concession, Rogan's team had more demands that seemed to doom the meeting. When Flaherty mentioned Harris going to Rogan's studio on October 25th, they dodged again. Wish we had known about this sooner, because he has the 25th blocked out as a personal day, the Rogan team said. When Flaherty countered with Saturday morning, the podcast host people replied, only if it's before 8:30 a.m. The excerpt appeared to suggest that message all but killed the talks between the two camps. The book alleged that shortly afterward, the Harris camp found out that Rogan spoke with Trump on his personal day. Well, I guess he probably already had that day blocked. Probably didn't want to tell him, yeah, I can't do the 25th. I got Trump that day. Yeah. The work mentioned that Harris aides made a final stab, offering to let Rogan talk with the vice president in Washington, D.C. However, Rogan's team balked, citing the Austin-only condition. Allen and Parnes quoted Flaherty telling Rogan's people, you get one trip to Texas within 3 weeks of the election. You don't get two. Now, again, how stupid do you have to be? How stupid do you have to be? So the deputy campaign manager tells Rogan's people, no, we were only there once. We're not coming back. No. The only reason you were there in the first place was to do the Rogan show. That's the only reason you went. That rally was for nothing. That rally was a giant ruse in order to do the Rogan show. And then you say, well, we're only going once. We're not going twice. The only reason you were there at all was to do this. You wanted to scam the donors into a worthless trip to Texas as an excuse to do Rogan's show. I mean, that is unbelievable. What a ship of fools.
This is the campaign about nothing. That is a George Costanza scheme, if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, listen. We have a rally in Texas. We invite Beyonce. We say, hey, Rogan's right next door.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, how dumb can you be?
It might work, yeah.
I mean, how stupid, how fucking stupid can you be? This is how $2 billion or whatever they raise gets blown, get just pissed down the drain. Just a giant con. Just a giant grift.
Okay, but also, I mean, unsaid here, and who knows how much this was part of the actual conversation. It certainly wouldn't have gone on the record, so you wouldn't be able to find any text saying this. From everything we know about Kamala behind the scenes, she's an unhinged narcissist. And people like that do not handle 3 hours well. They do not come off well because they're not able to hide over that much time and that much just raw off the top of their head conversing that there's something fucking wrong with them. There's something wrong with that woman. If you look at Sean O'Brien's account of her say, we're going to win with or without you, who acts like that?
Yeah, who tells
acts like that?
Yeah.
especially when you certainly don't have it in the bag by any means.
No.
By any means. Why would you act like that? I have said this from the beginning of her political career, of my becoming aware of her. There's something wrong with that woman. Like she's fucked up. She's fucked in the head. And anybody who's really in that close proximity with her has to know that the idea of a 3-hour unscripted conversation with her is not likely to end well.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I don't think they ever really wanted to do
Did
it.
they
I don't
want
think
to do that?
I don't think either party really wanted to. I don't think Rogan was thrilled about the idea, and I don't think Kamala was thrilled about the idea either. I think, if Rogan's going to have Trump on, he kind of looks like he's picking sides if he doesn't invite Kamala on. But if he invites Kamala on and gives her the same softball interview that he gave Trump, that's going to be very off brand for him. We all know that, right? We all know that he couldn't invite Kamala on and give her the same kind of interview that he gave Trump,
Right.
because that would cause an audience revolt, right? So if he brought her on, he'd have to kind of grill her, which would also make him look like he's picking sides.
Can I rub this lotion
right?
into your feet?
Yeah, right, exactly. Like if he did the Kamala interview in a way that would please the audience, then he would kind of expose his bias, right? Because he would have to, you would compare that interview to the softball that he gave Trump. So I don't think either of them really wanted to do it. I think Kamala thought if we could make this happen, it would probably be, I don't know, better than not. But at the same time, it didn't seem like anybody was really all that into it.
Please clap.